The model number one, the bare shell is given to you on rent, infrastructure as a service. And what is given to you? The networking storage servers are given to you on rent, to a limited extent to virtualization. Now, what is virtualization? Virtualization is physically one, logically multiple, or physically multiple, logically one. What does it mean? Let's take a very simple example. Now, many of these telecom companies have a concept where you have a family pack or a family related plan or a friends related plan, where 3 or 4 of you can take a particular plan, and unused data of each other can be shared with the other person. Unused internet calls can be shared with the other person, and likewise that sort of a sharing is permitted. Now, what are you doing? Even though each of you have a limit of 1 GB per day or 1 GB per month, whatever, today, right, because I have exhausted my 1 GB data, I can borrow that amount of data from somebody else and still use it, right? And there, what this telecom providers provided is a virtual layer where you have a 5 GB because 5 members are there. You figure out how you want to do, but minimum 1 GB will be allotted. In case you want to cross-refer, you have given the freedom. And what did I do? I created a virtual layer. And that's exactly happens in this virtualization. Thanks to the technologies, thanks to companies like, Dell, VMware, of course, VMware is now owned by Dell, right? Who were pioneers into this concept, who brought in this element of virtualization. Of course, there are multiple players to trade, who brought in this concept of virtualization where they said, hey, you have a hardware, we can logically, not physically, logically partition it. And what is logical partition? Simple understanding: D drive, E drive, F drive. But I can create so many partitions, and each partition with a device or a set of members, whatever it is, you can have that sort of a facility. And that is where virtualization came as a very, very big step. The moment this virtualization came in, now you decide what operating system you want to build. You may use a Linux, to predominantly used for most of the database and the servers. The data or the application what you build, everything is on you. Yours. That is infrastructure as a service, the first bare shell system. The second is a platform as a service. A platform as a service is where they provide you one step extra. They provide you even the operating system layer. They also help you with, in addition to the virtualization, the service provider themselves provide you a bunch of those things. And the beauty, what they do is, in addition to the operating system layer, right, they also provide you a host of tools and technologies where app developers can create their own apps without paying any license fees or without incurring additional cost. For example, today most of the modern startup companies have, or most of these modern companies have what is called as a Git repository. A Git is basically a source code repository. Now, this source code repository, my dear friends, this source code repository typically has all the logic, rules, everything defined out there. Now, when you have all of this defined, all of this derived out there, it becomes one single point where everything resides, and I have a controlled version and no host of benefits. Now, this may be attached, or this facility may be given to a service provider to say, hey, you want to develop apps, and not only giving you a layer where you can build it, you can also use these add-on services. Don't worry about the license price. I will pay the consolidated license price. Like, today Airtel, Tata Sky, Z, all of them are offering, or Times, they're offering, give me $399 or $599. I'll give you Netflix, Sony Live, plus something with some other benefits, freebies. So they're sort of packaging it. And that's what happens in a platform as a service. That means, what will my organization do? My organization will typically focus on building the application. And then you have the last scenario, or the last model, software as a service. And software as a service, if you ask me, is a typical plug and play system. You just log in, sign up, and start using. How many of us took time to actually start using Zoom app? No. If you have to join this meeting when we're having it, while you're having your office conversations, calls, discussions, coffee, or you're watching a movie, You have just enabled this, or you're uploading your UDIN numbers because today is the last date, whatever, right? I know I can see some smiles on your faces, but while you're doing all of this, you're able to hear through the conversation. All that it required is an app called Zoom, enter, click the link, and you are done. Now that is what is a software as a service. By the way, Zoom is also a cloud application, right? The software as a service is where the entire service is offered to you as a software. Earlier, if I had to have a video conferencing facility, mind you, my dear friends, it was not an easy affair. The hardware, the software, the facilities which are required, the infra, the networking, my goodness, it was mind-boggling. Today, nothing. I just need to have an app and I'm done. Of course, your hardware is presumed to be compatible with mobile phone and audio, right? It could be a laptop or your mobile phone, which is by default presumed. You could not bring a Nokia 1100 and say, hey, Zoom should work on this. That's not possible. So, which means we are talking about a system where everything is taken care by whom? By the service provider. Now comes an interesting question. Why should we know all of this? What is the use for me as a chartered accountant to understand all of this? My dear friends, when each of the technology progresses, there is always a huge benefit. There is always an element of risk, right? And obviously, there's an element of good to know or good to feel. Just, I'm aware of it. Like somebody says crypto coin. Oh, I know what is that crypto coin. That's all. Okay, your choice. Oh no, I am invested in crypto coin. Your choice. Or I have developed a business model using crypto coins. Well, I have developed a business model using crypto coins, but there are risk involved. How do I assess that? There are multiple ways in which you can look into it, right? And that is the perspective which I'm going to bring in the next few minutes because we are constrained on time. I have another 20 minutes and 5 minutes for Q&A.